At Fit for Less, we're a gym with no judgment. Like a friend who's seen you at your weirdest, but likes you anyway. And sure, we're a place to work out, but we're also a getaway, a place for me time. At only $4.99 every 2 weeks, we're the cheapest vacation you'll ever go on. Basically, we're a happy place that anyone can find at a price that everyone can afford. Sound good, friend? Visit fitforless.ca for details. Some conditions apply. Everybody happy!
This is This Week in Geek with Steve Snowball Sailor and Mike the Birdman Dodd. This special bonus episode was recorded in Toronto on Sunday, February 25th at Podcamp Toronto 2007.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
And we did all that without computers.
They don't let us out much.
Do we have an intro?
Not really. This is just us ad-libbing.
Are you ready for a sexy party?
Son of Jor-El, kneel before Dodd. Or me, whichever.
If you've seen Godzilla vs. Mothra 37 times, I think I've got a show for you.
You're listening to This Week in Geek with Mike the Birdman Dodd and Steve Snowball Sailor here on 90.1 FM, The New Heat.
Are we recording?
Yep, we're live right now. Okay, Steve.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of This Week in Geek. And
Very special.
Very special.
Absolutely.
If you giggle uncontrollably when a new update comes on your RSS feed, you are definitely on the right show. I am, of course, Steve Snowball Sailor.
And I am Mike the Birdman Dodd, and we're here live, more or less, in Toronto, Ontario at Podcamp 2007.
In our hotel room, of all places.
Yeah. We got a nice hotel room in a
Yeah.
not-so-nice hotel.
Exactly.
The paintings are ugly.
Yeah, but we have more people here than
We have
usual.
exceptionally amount of people. So
We have
we're
more
going to go
groupies.
around the room. We're going to go from Snowball's right. We have...
Hi, I'm Tara from Uncle Seth, and I wish I had a catchy name like you guys, but I don't.
We can come up with a name on the spot.
I'm just saying, something cool. Insert something cool here. Go.
Insert something cool there. Okay. All right. Well, we can definitely do that.
That we can do. And we have, in addition, our podcast virgin.
That's
Wow.
so ironic. Yeah, I'm Sharva.
Do you have a website? Do you have a blog?
I have a blog. It's,
You have a blog? Awesome. Tell me
it's
about
charlotteann.wordpress.com.
Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of bilingual.
So make sure to visit.
Bilingual. Ooh.
Yeah.
That
It makes her
sounds
hotter.
Do you alternate like mid-post or?
Occasionally, sometimes the posts are only in French, sometimes they're only in English, and then occasionally there's a couple of posts where I've actually translated it, because I'm a nerd like that. I'm all into the language.
That's cool.
That's very cool.
That is cool.
Oui, je parle français.
Wow.
Yeah. Moving right along, we have to my right.
I'm Brent, the Closet Geek from the Closet Geek Show.
And to my left, we have...
Hey there, I'm El Gritzmacher, also known as Doc Wu of the Buffalo Live Music Podcast.
Buffalo.
And this is who we have at our current roundtable today.
I love the way you say podcast. It's just so cute. It's like it's like
Oh,
podcast.
it's
Podcast.
that Western New York
Yeah.
wow
It's
thing,
like-
yes.
For Torontonians, the only thing I can compare it to is Lockport Gambino Ford.
Gambino Ford. Fordy.
Yeah. It's the only thing that, like,
Absolutely.
it's just adorable. Sorry,
I
I'm
won't
interrupting.
change then.
Wow.
No, it's adorable. Don't change, ever.
Yeah. See, now the reason why we're all here in this hotel room, other than the kind of underlying issue, we're all here for this kind of conference called Podcamp.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Actually, I believe it's an unconference.
it's an unconference. Ooh, I'm
This
sorry.
is not a conference in the normal
This
sense
is
of the
not
term.
the conference
Yeah,
you're
there
looking
is
for.
no synergy. There's no buzzwords.
You
There's
need to
just
do
a
the
bunch of
hand wave
geeks. Getting
An
together.
unconference
Too
is
bad it's not a video
community
podcast.
conference.
I could do the
Yeah.
hand wave. I'm doing a hand wave right now. The whole Jedi mind Picture it. thing. Jedi
Very
mind
cool.
trick.
Wow,
Look
that's
at me
awesome.
go.
This is not the conference you're looking for.
That's
There you
what
go.
So
All
we
right.
came from Niagara to come here to do this thing. Actually, we made the decision to come after a Wednesday night show, which was, what date was that, Snowball?
It was the 21st.
The 21st. So
Yep.
it's now Sunday morning, and we're recording this. We just came back from emceeing our first event.
Yeah, it was kind of
We
cool.
were the MCs for the Schmooze event at Podcamp, and wow, we did a pretty good job. So
You guys were awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you
guys
very
did a good
much.
job emceeing.
Yeah.
thank you very much. So
we rule.
we're definitely going to upload clips of the show later because we got Doc Wu here to record our feed. So we're going to put some of these on the site, and you guys will be able to hear us.
All right.
So I guess let's start.
All right. So what you guys? I guess we'll start with you, Tara. How'd you find out about Podcamp, and what really possessed you to come to cold Toronto in the middle of winter?
I live in cold Toronto, so the middle of winter
that would make a lot of sense.
Is nothing for me. We're the fish.
Why do you have a problem with Toronto?
I don't have a problem with Toronto. I live in Niagara.
Yeah. We're the official Canadian band of podcasting, so to make a conference without us, I'd cry. And no one wants to make me cry, really.
Exactly. Crying is bad.
I'm just saying.
You start
why you gotta be like that? You know? Yeah, so, and podcasting is something that we're really interested in. We, Uncle Seth, my band, has a podcast itself. And we're very active in the podcasting community. We've been on the podcasting charts a few times, and, you know, we've been around the block, you know, so what a good place to be than be at home and welcome everyone here.
Cool. I'll see.
For me, I have never podcasted before. This is actually the first time I've actually been on a podcast. I've been mentioned on a couple of podcasts. I think CC Chapman.
Really? Wow. That's head up there.
Well, after Podcamp Boston, CC just, you know.
Somebody gets around.
Hey!
Now, quick question. Was it the cowboy hat that's
actually, this cowboy hat belongs to Bill Days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just kind of around because I kind of hang out with Uncle Seth. I'm not really involved. I'm just kind of. I am a groupie, and I'm the merch girl. I don't know. Okay, hold on. Tara's got something for me.
She's like the Pomeranian in our purse, if you know what I mean.
Awesome. I love that. She's your accessory.
I believe if Jay Muna of Uncle Seth and the online music marketing podcast, he's gonna love me for mentioning that.
There you go.
He would call me the chargé d'affaires of Uncle Seth and the podcastingness of them and me hanging around. Anyway, that's about it for me.
So if you were going to start your own podcast, what after have you been inspired?
I've thought about it a lot, and I'm really into the whole meta podcast kind of thing. Like I love the community, and I love talking to people about podcasting and seeing how people are kind of into it and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it might be kind of like a meta podcast, and I'd podcast about podcasting or something to do with language.
Wow.
That would actually be rather cool. Actually,
that would be
I'd like to hear that.
A podcast on linguistics would be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I've heard of a couple of not really linguistic, but more grammar-based podcasts. Like there's one called Grammar Girl that I actually just heard about today in one of the sessions.
Yeah, I've also heard of that one.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool. And LibraryVox, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's Hugh McGuire's kind of baby, I guess. And it's where people will record readings of various books, and they've kind of created this online audiobook library, which is really, really cool.
Now, are those books exclusively in the public domain, or are they famous books, or?
I think it's kind of any book. As far as I've heard.
Yeah, the way I understood it is the ones that were in public domain, like back before 19 something.
Oh, okay, I don't really know.
Project Gutenberg, which is like this sort of experiment, or not an experiment, but this project in like scanning books that are in the public domain and making them available online. It's like taking that collection of these really old pieces of literature and reading them and turning them to audiobook form.
Well, actually, I was just talking to Hugh about this because I'm kind of like a French nerd, and I went to Frankfurt grade school and stuff, so I'm all into the French. We apparently there's a party going on in 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven. All right.
Open all night. Later, guys.
Awesome.
Yeah. So he was telling me about how he's starting a project for Les Liaisons Dangereuses, which
sounds so sexy. I'm sorry.
The dangerous league.
I have no comment to that.
Les Liaisons Dangereuses. I was saying that for the camera.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so I think I might get on board with that because I actually just started reading it, so it's kind of like good timing.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
That is phenomenally cool,
So
actually.
those are my thoughts. Anyway, moving on.
All right, we're going
Brent?
to Brent now.
To the Brent.
Before we get to Brent, we actually have to duck out. But thank you so much for having us on your
Absolutely.
podcast.
That's
Thank you for allowing me to podcast. I've never podcasted.
And so, once
I'm sorry,
again,
we
so
have
what-
to duck. We have. It's past our bedtime.
But we need to get your website one more time so we can
Yeah,
send
give
listeners
out
there.
your URL or something so people
Yeah.
listening can tune in. Or
You can go to
stuff.
www.musicface.com/Uncle Seth, or just go to musicface.com and click on Uncle Seth, or do Google search for Uncle Seth, and basically anywhere you go with Uncle Seth, you're going to end up at us. So
I'll say, okay,
it's a good time. You know what I'm saying?
We're not actually going to end up as some old guy named
Except
Seth.
there's an Uncle Seth webpage that has to do with a cookie.
So if you end up at ordering pink cookies, not us.
You're not at the right
I'm
side.
just saying. But thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
We'll see you tomorrow at the conference.
Cool. That's okay. Hey, you're just close to the door. That's awesome.
Thank you. All right,
Thanks,
so
guys.
now
Crap,
we're back in the room.
now we just lost all our feminine quality of this show.
That's
now
okay.
the show's going downhill.
Oh, right.
Should I raise my voice an octave?
No, it's just not going to work because we got to see you.
Ouch, my pride.
And there goes the professionalism right down the toilet.
Oh.
But that's okay.
Damn, it's like 2 o'clock in the freaking morning, dude. I mean,
Exactly. And, you know, that's the dedication we give to you listeners. So we
Yeah.
better get some feedback at ThisWeekInGeek.net, or, you know, comment on our MySpace page, or just, you know, comment. Send us some love.
Yeah.
You know what? No one sent me flowers in so long.
no one's actually come knocking at your door lately yet. So.
Yeah, it's been kind of quiet for stalkers. So
Yeah.
please, I'm inviting you, and you know exactly who you are. If you're listening to this, I'm damn surprised. So anyway, moving right along.
Going back
here.
to Brent, the Brent.
So what's the topic? Why am I at Podcamp?
Exactly.
Yeah, why are you at Podcamp?
All right,
what do you do?
Okay,
when you're
here's
at
the story
Podcamp?
for me at Podcamp. Lisa Barnes from Podonomics.com is this great podcast on sort of like promoting yourself online through podcasting.
She didn't like to be pictured today. It was kind of weird.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
Actually, I really did.
She posted a note on, I think it was on like the Toronto podcasts, like Google group or mailing list or something like that. And she's like, you know, we should really do a Podcamp Toronto or a Podcamp or a podcasting event sort of to get this Toronto community together. And I replied to him like, yeah, that would be really fun. I'd love to help out with it. So I somehow ended up being one of the organizers. And part of the problem with that is I haven't really had that much time to actually go to a whole lot of the sessions of Podcamp. Because I've been busy like organizing it. It didn't like think in my head, you know, if I was planning it, then I wouldn't really have time to participate in it. But it's really been a fun experience, and I've met a lot of cool people. And the sessions that I did check out today were really helpful for me, and I think they're going to be really good for helping me with my podcasting and just sort of my general podcasting knowledge to sort of spread it around to sort of the people I know and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah, like some of the experiences we got today will definitely help us as broadcasters, and now as new coming podcasters as well.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to expand our listenership beyond the range of our transmitter.
Yeah, it's still kind of weird that our podcast is technically only about a week and a half old, and it's like just the amazing response that we've got. Like, thank you everyone who has been listening and has subscribed and has tuned in to our show, because that just makes us feel like really freaking awesome.
Yeah, like we thank you guys from the bottoms of our hearts.
Yeah.
And if we ever get a chance to have a This Week in Geek get together, one of the rounds will surely be on me. I promise you that right now to all of our listeners.
And you guys are welcome.
Of
too.
course,
I'm gonna book it down to Niagara Falls just to make you buy me a drink.
It'll be awesome, dude.
It'd be worth the drive.
We'll show you to the W dot where we're
Dude,
from.
hey, if you guys even make it to our live show, that'd be even cooler.
Yeah, we'd love to have you guys in studio.
Yeah, because we have this thing called the Fish Bowl. It's like this small studio that's where we broadcast from. 90.1 FM, the new heat.
Yeah.
It's basically like this. It's a little kind of room in our cafeteria at our school, and it's basically it's surrounded in glass windows. And it's a small tiny room. We call it the Fish Bowl. So you guys are more than welcome to be able to come on. So, my mic is apparently.
Yeah, just watch your mic. I don't want you to rub.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
We're not one of those kind of shows with the, you know,
with bad audio.
There's no excess rubbing.
With bad audio.
There will be no
with
rubbing
mics.
on my podcast.
No.
Thank you very much.
No.
So we're going over to Doc Woo.
Hey,
Ow.
yes.
Doc Woo.
Why am I here?
Why are you here?
Why are you here at
Why
Podcamp Toronto?
not? Actually, kind of wanted to get to one or another of these types of get-togethers. Of course, I heard about the one in Ontario, California, the past however many times they've had it, I guess twice. And that's just out of my range.
Yeah, I've wanted to go to the Podcast Expo, and it's just like, it's
Yeah,
money. Is it?
right.
Well, I could
much
spend
are
a couple grand to go down, but, you know, I'd like to pay rent.
Right, how much are plane tickets and everything?
Living is good.
And a while back, I heard about the one in Pittsburgh. Somebody invited me to it and everything, and that just didn't work out either. But through that, I learned about the one coming up in Toronto, and I said, "Hey, Toronto's close by. You know, I can make that."
I found out about this on Sunday.
Wow.
I instant message over there. It's like, dude, we gotta go to this thing.
Yeah, I guess I've known about this probably, I don't know, 3-4 months, probably.
Because of this event, I'm not going to eat for the next week. I'm very poor.
But my whole thing was, you know, there aren't very many other podcasters in my area. I mean, Jim Mills was here today, who's from Buffalo, does a completely different type of podcast than what I do. I'm doing a music podcast. He's doing a law librarian podcast, and he puts music in it. He puts music in it, but what he's talking about really doesn't interest me all that much, and so, you know, I've listened once or twice, but it just doesn't grab me. And there's one other in the area. I guess he calls it Western New York. He works in Buffalo. He lives out in somewhere to the east a little bit, and that was I can't remember. It should be right on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, that's about it for podcasts in the Buffalo area. So I had this. You know, I wanted to meet other people that were doing the same thing and get ideas and feed off your enthusiasm and learn a little bit myself, because I've picked it all up on my own, whether what I'm doing is right, wrong, or indifferent, you know. And, you know, certainly it's been a good experience. I've got to say, and to anybody listening that was at Podcamp today, everyone I met, without exception, whether I talked to them for 5 minutes or for an hour, has been great. I mean, everybody has been fantastic, willing to share everything, and encouraging, you know, with whatever it is you're doing.
Absolutely.
You know, no negativity at all. It's been a great experience.
Yeah, it's been a really good community, and in the opening session, someone said, you know, don't feel even if you've only been doing this for a while, don't feel like you don't have anything to share, because everyone, by virtue of making your own show, you're an expert in your own little particular niche. And I've found that everyone that I've spoken to has had some piece of information to share with me that's going to help inform how I do my show, and it's just useful information that, you know, we've all sort of taken different routes to make our shows, and it's good that everyone has their own take on things, their own points of view, and their own sort of angles that they're coming at this sort of content creation thing, and that's been the most useful thing for me. Just this the sharing of information, and everyone has a new idea, and everyone has their own perspective on stuff, and it really helps inform sort of my own knowledge.
I'm surprised how many different kind of podcasts are out there. I mean, I ran into a guy today who does a pets podcast. There's a gardening one, of all things.
Yeah.
Just amazing the amount of ones that are out there. There's even ones that are about citizen blogging and journalism.
Yeah. Oh, and Andrew and the Geek Farm podcast.
Yeah.
Farm Geek, whatever it is. Yeah.
I'm just amazed at this. This is information.
I never would have thought of that
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking about something similar a couple shows ago on my own show.
What is your show, just for those?
My show is the Closet Geek Show, and it's like a music show, and it's a sort of a general interest show. I'm a real information nerd. I will sit on Wikipedia for hours upon hours and pour over as much information as I can and just absorb things, and then I talk about sort of stuff I learn about on my own show. But one of the things I was talking about a couple weeks ago is how easy it is for people to create content and put it online. And I've been having discussions with people online with, there's this blogging thing and this podcasting thing, and there's MySpace and Facebook and Twitter.
Twitter,
Twitter.
All these things where you can create stuff, and they want to be able to do something with it. And it's sort of the point I made in my own show is that, you know what, if someone is if you put out something, there is someone out there, even if it's just a few people, that will find a use with the information you put online. And now that it's so easy and it doesn't require any extra work at all, if you just put that information out there, someone somewhere will find that useful. Like if you go to a restaurant in your town and I went out to restaurant X and the food was good but the service was really bad, something like that, it helps people in the future that if they're looking for somewhere to go and they do or they're going to go to X restaurant and they want to see if there's reviews of it, they'll find your blog post or your podcast or something like that. Like if you just put it out there, someone will find it at some point and it'll be useful to them. And I made the point that we have these tools now and it's so easy to just create stuff and put it out there, and it's not like if you take the time to put it out there, then it's useful. And if you don't put even just like a little bit of information out there, you're kind of wasting this like age that we live in where it's so easy to put stuff out there and it's so easy to create content, even if it's like I said, like just like a couple line restaurant review or something like that. If you're not adding to the sort of the global conversation that everyone's having right now, then you're kind of you're kind of wasting this age that we're living in. And like why bother using the internet and all this kind of thing if you're not going to add to the conversation in some way, if you're not going to comment on the things people post online, or make your own blog or something like that. Like it's so easy to add to the conversation and this sort of this big pool of information that we have now that it's kind of a waste of
don't just be a user and leech off everything
exactly.
that's there.
Just
contribute
back,
your share,
even if it's a little bit.
Right.
It's helpful.
Something.
Yeah.
I mean, the internet has given everybody a voice, and everybody says, "Well, no one's going to hear me." Well, you have to speak up first.
Right.
And podcasting, blogging, MySpace, Facebook, and all those websites gave you that ability. Now it's time to use it, and more people are becoming more media savvy, especially in our business now. We learned about how blogs changed the face of journalism.
Yeah.
Podcasting will change the way information is distributed.
Yeah.
I mean, we are the new media.
And the cool thing is about the podcasting community that I found, it seems that even just noticing it today as a prime example at Podcamp, is that everybody that is part of podcasting is always is the nicest, most outgoing, most creative bunch of people that I have ever met. I mean, just just you guys alone, and all the people that Mike and I have met today. We had so much fun. Just like we didn't even really go to a lot of sessions that we wanted to, because we had so much fun just standing out in the kind of lobby area, registration area, and just talking to people.
Yeah, I mean, we networked today like we've never done before. I mean, I work in PR, and this was an excellent chance just to schmooze and talk. I mean, we talked with Andy Walker today, who does Lab Rats. We hung out with Amber MacArthur for a little bit, and just wow! I mean, that's media experience you can't get with a press badge.
I walked through the line at the supermarket behind her. That's when I caught up and talked to her.
I mean, just,
I worked with her.
It's this kind of access that our little community is coming together, and we're becoming a larger and larger force in the media now. I mean, CBC's got podcasts now. CTV's got them. City Pulse. So, I mean, we're being taken seriously.
And the thing is, what's great about it is that even though the podcast community is getting bigger every single day, we still have not lost that fact, the community aspect of it.
Right.
And it's not just one person just kind of out there.
And to me, that's what the corporate podcasts, like you say, CBC, NPR, all these ones that are doing their own podcasts, quote unquote, and a lot of them I feel are just repackaged radio shows.
Exactly.
They don't have that feel.
Podcasts or there's one radio show that I listen to as a podcast, the Penn Radio, which is the Penn from Penn and Teller.
Okay.
And, they also do a show called Bull's Hit.
Yeah.
Bulls.
As he calls it on his radio show. And I'm trying to keep it, PG.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you very much.
And it's just like a call-in radio show, but he's a really funny guy, and that's the only radio show I would like listen to it, but I don't even think of it as a podcast. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's not like it's just sort of repackaged.
It's kind of like how we do it on our show.
And on the other hand, there are podcasts out there that, you know what, they should be radio shows. They're that good.
Yeah, it's these animated people talking about stuff that they're passionate with,
and
they're not even
creative,
making money.
Creative
they're just like,
people.
Yeah, they're just like, I'm really
Red Bar
into
Radio.
this.
Have you ever listened to Red Bar Radio?
I think I heard it once or twice.
They're better than most radio talk shows, sports shows, whatever you want to call it. And they've got everything they've got. They've got call-ins. They've got the whole bit.
Yeah.
And they're
it's fantastic.
They grab you. You can't stop listening.
I mean, just the amount of talent that people have in just podcasts. I mean, even there's even just like grandmothers that are podcasting, and yet they make a really good show. They don't know really anything about the internet or how to even really podcast.
They just know how to talk.
They just know how to talk, and they know how to be entertaining. And that's just weird because a lot of people have the misconception of the fact that in order to be able to be have like a show, like a radio show or TV show, you have to have this kind of abundance of charisma and have this amount of talent that is just that everyone needs to see or hear this person.
You just have to be engaging.
Exactly. I mean, there's little kids that are. There was a little kid today that is starting up his own podcast for his school.
And this kid couldn't have been any older than 10 or 12 years.
Yeah, and I was watching him. He was doing doing a story with Amber for City News. And he basically they had him so that he would go up to this one of the heads of Podcamp, and he just started talking to him and just started interviewing him, and he was doing a good job.
Yeah,
it was as if he was doing this forever.
Yeah, I mean, this kid, it looked like he'd taken one of our journalism classes.
Yeah. Right.
And this kid
and
knew
you talk
that approach.
Talk about community. I mean, there you have it. There's no age discrimination, no race discrimination in podcasting. I mean, you guys are college age. I'm 53 years old, and I think the medium age here was somewhere in between there, probably. 35, 40 years old today, and that was a shocker to a lot of us. Everyone thinks, podcasting, that's the new thing, that's kids, and it's not. It's everybody. It is everybody.
Yeah.
Like some of my friends, they run Star Wars Action News. My friends Arnie and Marjorie. And they're my age, 25 to I think 29. I'm not sure. Sorry, guys. And their podcast is phenomenal. And they're the last people I expected to do it. And they've been doing it for about a year now. They had a live call-in show. They work with so many companies like Master Replicas, Sideshow Collectibles, Dark Horse Comics, and all them. And just it's amazing. And just people our age can produce that content. Just wow.
Yeah.
You just don't think of people our age as radio personalities.
Yeah. I mean, even just us. I mean, I always knew that I really wanted to get in radio. I mean, I don't say I have this massive amount of talent, but I've been always told I have the radio voice, and I was refusing it for years. I was I did not want to do this, and then when I got into it, it was just really, really fun. And then when I tried to, I asked Mike to be a part of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but you had no. He had no interest in going into radio whatsoever. He wanted to be a TV production guy, and yet now because of the show, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but I think you really want to start getting into radio now.
Yeah, I mean, I came here working from Rogers Television as a technical director in audio department, and as I got into the show, I realized and I remembered when I was a kid I wanted to be a radio personality because I've had people who worked in radio saying, you know what, you should consider this. And then I've been told I've got talent in this, and I'm like, wow, that's the last thing I was supposed to hear because my marks are not all that great. And then my radio teacher, Christian, who we mentioned earlier when we were emceeing, the guy is tough on you, but he pushes you. And it's that push that I believe kind of makes you realize either you have talent or you don't. Yeah. And I think he pushed me just enough to say, hey, if you want to do it, you can do it. Yeah. And he said that to us the other day.
Marks are definitely not everything.
No, I think the important thing is to talk about something you're passionate about. If it's something you're interested in, and I'm doing a session tomorrow on how to avoid what we call pod fading, which is when a podcaster just disappears because they get bored with their content. One of the points we're going to make is that you got to talk about something you're interested in, because if you're not interested in it and it's not something that you're passionate about, then if you get too busy, or if work gets too much, or your personal life gets too much, you're not going to want to invest the time into talking about it. And I think
what's important is, it's not about marks or your technical skill. Like, personally, I'm terrible at sound production, and I bought like an expensive mic and all that stuff, and I don't even bother with it anymore. For me, it's just putting out interesting content, and I think that's what's key to being successful at this. You just have to have something that you're passionate about, something that that there's a level of honesty, that this is something that I'm interested in, and I'm not in this to make money necessarily. I mean, people do make money at it, but it's not the driving force in why you do what you do. It's just, this is something I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I love to do. I mean, honestly, the amount of work me and Snowball put into a show is amazing. I spend 6 hours researching a show each week, sometimes even 6 hours a night, researching content, making sure all my stuff is accurate.
Tuesday night.
Usually Tuesday night, which is our non-sleeping day.
Yep.
And we go to air 4:30 to 5:30 on Wednesdays, and we're good to go, and our conversation just flows.
Oh yeah, it's amazing that we have so much. Like, we have a lot of show notes that we just don't even get a chance to even talk about, because we just get really interested in it. And I love a quote that another podcaster, David Lawrence, has said, and it's always stuck with me. It says, "If you're interested, you'll be interesting."
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're out there to be able to try to get yourself an audience and try to be able to cater to an audience, you're not. Then you're kind of losing yourself in a way. But if you're interested in the topic that you are, like Mike and I have with Geeks, you're Brent, you're with Geeks yourself, and you're with and Al, you're with music.
Mm-hmm.
It just, whatever we're interested in, then that's where the audience will come. The audience will come. Basically, it goes back to Field of Dreams. If you build it, the audience will come.
Yes.
I mean, News at Niagara came to us.
Yeah.
Because they said we have really great on-air chemistry. Now, Steve and I have only known each other maybe a month and a half.
It was our first episode. We knew each other for 3 days, and yet after we were done, we were told that we had we knew each other. For years.
And I'll even say this: Steve is quickly becoming one of my best friends.
Sure.
Because we hang out all the time. We're always talking. We even talk about personal problems.
Yep.
I never thought this would happen. I honestly figured, you know what? I'll go to school. I'll edit in Final Cut. I'll work in the mobile truck. I want to be behind-the-scenes technical director. And it changed.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I find particularly hard about being a solo podcast, and that is keeping the energy up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one.
I
don't know anybody that does a podcast quite the way I do a podcast, in that I record bands live, in a bar, in a club, anywhere they'll let me. And I also interview them, but then I go back and I edit it all together and make a podcast out of it, and then I add my introductions, my announcements, whatever to it. And that's the part that, maybe you've spent 4 hours editing and you got home late. I've gotten home at 6 o'clock in the morning, been in a bar till 4 a.m. Before I got out, and that's part of the way I do it. And I don't mind, but sometimes you get tired, and then you're trying to get a podcast out on a deadline, and you just got to find things to keep the energy up, because by the time I get to recording my part of it, I'm beat sometimes,
Right, yeah.
And the two of you working together, you can get around that because you'll feed off of each other. I find this today is so invigorating with the four of us talking.
I've done shows with friends. This happened 2 or 3 times. I'll have a buddy over and be like, we should just do a podcast because we're just geeking out, the two of us, and I'll throw some music in there. And it's great when there's 2 people to bounce ideas off of, because if someone's running low on energy, someone will bounce, sort of chime in with something, or you'll have it's not. It seems when you have more than one person talking, it's not. It seems to a certain extent when it's just you, by yourself talking into the mic, it's it's not a conversation. You're talking at people, and personally, I'm not necessarily comfortable with that. I like to consider myself a bit of a modest person. I don't like to talk all the time and assume that all the things I'm saying are right. I want someone to argue with me, and I want someone to disagree with what I say, or chime in with sort of their own point of view on what I'm saying, and that kind of thing. The shows that I do with a co-host are great, just because I have that sort of that extra mind to sort of bounce things off of.
And I think there's actually a lot of the successful podcasts are that format. They're 2 people or more, and it doesn't matter what they're talking about. It's a conversation,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it interesting a lot of times is not the subject matter. You can pick up a book on anything or Google it and you'll find something to read. But to hear a discussion between a couple people about something, that's exciting.
Well, one of my favorite shows is the Switched On Show. And they're at switchedonshow.com, just to give them a bit of a shout out. And the format for the show is genius. It's these 4 guys that are like best friends, and they hang out on the weekends. So what they do for their show is they just turn on mics and talk. And that literally that's the show, and it's them. They'll talk about what they did this week. And they're really funny guys, and they'll just go off, and their shows can run on really long, like 3 hours long, but it's 3 hours of you just like nonstop laughing because they're funny guys, and they're just talking and joking back and forth, and they're not even talking to the microphone. It's just the microphone sort of listening in on them, and they're really great to listen to. Like I'll have them on in the apartment, and I'll be playing Xbox or whatever, and like it's like having those guys in the apartment with you, like talking, and I'm laughing at all the stuff they're saying, and it's really cool because it's like a conversation, and they have fantastic chemistry because they're not talking about any particular topic. It's just 4 guys sort of honestly talking about whatever it is that comes to mind, and just joking around, and it's great. I love that the realness of it.
I find chemistry comes easier in podcasting than it does in traditional radio. You can choose your co-host. Your co-host is not chosen for you. So when you're in podcasting, like you can like we were just saying here, it depends on who you have chemistry with. Right. Like all of us, I think all 4 of us have a pretty good chemistry. I mean, we've been talking here. We're at the 36-minute mark of the show, and this conversation started like 10 minutes ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And we're still interested. We're still engaged about it. And in radio, your producer can decide, well, this week you're going to be paired with so and so. Like morning drive shows, it's whoever will get the ratings, and depends on your market. As far as I know, now I could very well be wrong.
And I want you to talk about this. You've got 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Here is your clock. Exactly. Now, in radio, me and Steve follow a clock because we have the commercial breaks, we have sponsors, and we have mandates to follow.
It's just for any old regular radio station.
Yeah, and I think advertising works a lot different in podcasting.
Absolutely,
because the way it is when you're a podcaster, your personality and your own, you end up being sort of your own brand. Yeah. Which is kind of like a weird way to see things, but once you become like a personality that people revolve around, and they like, for me, people listen to my show because they like the music I like and the music I play on my show, and sort of it starts to be that they listen to my show not necessarily for the things I say, but for the things I'm interested in, the experience, and they sort of revolve around the same kind of stuff I like. It's sort of how they get interested into it. So, I mean, personally, I don't have any advertisers now, but a lot of the podcasters that listen to that make money off advertising. It's not like they have like they break for a commercial, or some of them have like a commercial at the beginning of their show and at the end. But a lot of what I'm seeing is their advertisements are them just sort of talking about a product they use, and it's honesty. It's just
Senseo.
Exactly. That same thing. What's his name does? Adam Curry.
Adam Curry. Yeah.
Great. Now I don't even remember. But
and Splenda flavor blends.
Yes. Yeah. That's the latest.
Exactly.
His latest kick.
It's just sort of just talking about stuff that you use. Yeah. And stuff that you end up using in your own day-to-day life, and I think sort of developing that personal brand, and then giving a recommendation to people of this product or this service. Yeah. When people get a level of trust with you, and they sort of trust the things you say, and they trust in the bands that you like, and that kind of thing.
Actually, it's kind of funny you should mention that, how, people using products and stuff like that. One of the podcasts I listen to in the collecting community, right? Like Hasbro seems to be really, really involved with their Star Wars and their Transformers lines. they're actually taking questions from podcasts and everything. How can we improve the product? What information do you need for us to focus the products for next year? I mean, Star Wars action figures, they're making figures that fans want for a change, and Hasbro's actually interacting with them, and just, collectors now influence it. And like you were saying with brands, we want this. People are listening. Podcasts are being taken seriously by larger corporations, and that's amazing. I never thought I'd see that.
I saw something similar with, it wasn't directly with podcasts, it was with blogs. It's just kind of like, similar.
Yeah.
The product, what's it called? Lego Mindstorms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is like Lego's robotics division.
And they brought them back. Right?
Yeah, they came up with the version 2 of it. And what they did, I was reading about it in Wired or something like that. What they did is they went around to sort of the big bloggers, the big people in the community, and on the message boards and the chat rooms and that kind of thing that were making robots, and they're really active participants. They went directly to them and they said, "All right, look, we're making the new, Lego Mindstorms. What do you think, as sort of experts in this? What do you think we need?" Like, because there were people who were, because Lego Mindstorms came out with, I think it had like 3 or 4 sensors that would that your robot would react to. Right. And these people were, they basically created their own sensors. They're like, you know what? They don't have an infrared sensor, but I need one for this project. And they would go out and make one. Right. So these, what I read Lego did is they went to it was like 6 experts. And they said, we will give you free Lego and like free sort of testing equipment and like free beta, basically beta Lego. Right. If you play with it and you test it and you come back to us and tell us what we need. And that's what they did. And they came back with all these recommendations and worked with sort of the product development team. And they made a product that was, what the direction that Lego wanted to take their product, but also with input. And the people who are actually using it and sort of spokespersons, I guess, for the community at large, and they use their input to inform how the product was developed.
We have a special guest.
You got to give Lego credit. They've done a lot to enhance education. I mean, they actually have a grade school level robotics competition that's international in scope.
Oh wow!
Based on the Lego Mindstorms robots.
I went to summer camp one year and did Lego.
It's a junior program to the high school robotics program that I work with, and that's the first robotics program.
I did Lego robots before Mindstorms. That's how hardcore I am. And I did Lego Logo. Have you heard of
Lego
Logo? Programming language Logo? Yeah. There was a Lego or some Lego system that worked with Logo, and you built these Lego robots that responded to Logo commands. And we did stuff like robots that would like find their way around mazes and nonsense like that. It was fun for summer camp. But.
Wow, I could barely build the pirate ship.
That's sad. That's really sad.
What's your favorite Lego set?
Probably the one where you can build a castle.
Oh, okay.
I think it was really cool. But you see, I used to build spaceships. So I was really into Star Wars and all that stuff.
Well, they have the Lego Star Wars now, which I gotta admit is really lame. Yeah. Because I liked the Lego properties that were like their own. I liked the Blacktron they had, which is like they were all like wearing black suits, like the green neon stuff, and the other one was Ice Planet or something like that. Yep. They were like blue and white with like the orange. I had like almost the whole like Ice Storm set.
I remember
it was sweet.
Ones I liked the most were the Lego Technics.
Oh yeah, I never really clicked with Technic. I don't know. It didn't feel like Lego to me. It felt like model building, and I hated that when I was a kid.
I liked the Lego Stormtrooper and the Lego. I think it was the Lego Battle Droid.
I was the old school thing where my mom would just buy just a bag of like Legos and just like go nuts, and that's what I loved about Legos when I was a kid. That's what my brother and I did. We just basically made our own stuff.
Yeah,
I was more of an action figure kind of guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You're making me feel old. All I had was an Erector set.
Dude, I love Erector sets, man.
They're cool.
Fun.
I wish I still had it.
Oh, there's people keep knocking on our door. I think it's a prank call that.
Just leave our door unlatched.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we do it at This Week in Geek. We just leave our door wide open, much like people just walk into our studio when we're on the air.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Thank you, Anthony, Eric. Who else has walked into our studio?
I think it was Chris, and he just went in the elevator.
Did you leave the door open?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, sorry about the mic fell on the floor. But
Yeah, sorry guys.
All those people just have
scratching.
their eardrums busted.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Our eardrums are already busted from tonight.
Which was a really good set, I might add.
Yeah, the music tonight was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
and we had a great time emceeing. So thank you for setting that up for us.
Oh, that was
no problem,
that was
man.
so
You guys, you guys are certainly animated.
Yeah.
When I couldn't find you earlier today, I'm like, "Have you guys seen the guys from This Week in Geek?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Yeah, I can't see them around here." And even if I can't see them, I'm pretty sure if they were here, I would hear them.
How do you lose a 400-pound man
and an albino?
Well, I know. I was looking at all the rooms. I'm like, I'm not seeing you, so I'm assuming he's not here.
Out of all the people you can pick out in a crowd, I think us two are
you
the only
admit,
ones.
You two stand out.
Exactly.
The albino and the fat kid.
The fat guy.
That's awesome, though. I mean, that is our brand right there. We're the polar opposites of each other.
Yeah. Going back to advertising, there was something I had just clicked in as we were talking. And it was the fact that with podcasting, advertising and podcasting, it seems to be like when you watch an advertisement on TV or on radio, a lot of people would love to just skip through it or just go, another commercial, or just move on or whatever. But in podcasting, advertising is kind of more accepted because you kind of.
It seems more genuine.
Yeah, it seems more genuine, and you have you already have kind of a personal, somewhat. You have a personal connection, almost a one-on-one connection with the podcaster itself.
Right.
So you know for a fact that if they have advertisements on there, it's not because that they're like, I want to put ads and I can get.
I'm not getting rich off of it, but it pays the bills and keeps the podcast coming.
It keeps them going. So
because it's a conversation. If you do you promote a product or something that it ends up being a bit of BS. Your listeners are going to call you on it, and you don't want that because that's going to get through the grapevine, and you're not gonna promote stuff that you yourself don't believe in or you don't think is good. Like it's that honesty that it keeps coming back to. That people trust your personality and they trust who you are, and you don't want to betray that trust because then you lose your audience.
Yeah, exactly.
I've actually avoided getting into an advertising situation because I don't want to give up that control. When you take money for an advertisement, then you've got some obligations back.
It makes me think of that movie Wayne's World.
Yeah,
I will bow to no sponsor.
Exactly.
Product.
Exactly. And so, and I got to say, potential advertisers are not beating my door down, so it doesn't matter. But
it would be nice to pay the bills, though.
Yeah, it would be nice. I think
I could.
Does.
I do. It's a kind of a geographically oriented, podcast in the sense that it's about a region. It's music in a region. It may not be of a lot of interest to somebody in California unless they're from Buffalo or they're in the music industry or something, but there certainly would be potential for me to beat the streets and go to record stores, clubs in the local area and say, listen, I'm doing a podcast about the music here, the local music, and could you advertise? And I probably could scare some up, but as I say, I don't spend a lot of money doing it anyway, so I haven't needed the money, and I don't want, as I say, to lose that control, to be obligated to put a podcast out every week if I don't feel like it or couldn't get out to record something for some reason. So I myself, I don't think I'll ever call it advertising. I make it like sponsors, sponsor the podcast because you think it's good for music.
Yep.
Right.
And that puts it in a little different perspective too.
Yeah.
There's and I am spacing on his last name, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for it because him and I are in the same podcast alliance collective thing called the 138, and it's all these. The only rule for that collective is you have to be interesting, and that's it. We have some really cool podcasts in it, and one of the podcasts is Podcast 411, which is a podcast about podcasting.
Yes.
And Rob, who's, like I said, I can't remember his last name. That's terrible of me.
Sorry, Rob.
Yeah, sorry, Rob.
And we've all listened to it.
I apologize.
He was making a comment, and I think it must have been at least a year ago, and I heard maybe even a couple of years ago. He was making a comment talking about sort of the how it's easier for a locally focused podcast to obtain sponsorship and advertisers than it is for sort of like a generic show. Like personally, my show, I talk about stuff in Toronto, but I don't. It's not Toronto focused. And whereas something like your podcast would be, you're focused in the Buffalo area.
He's probably
so you could,
right.
Like you could go to local area businesses and that kind of thing, and be like, this is a Buffalo music podcast. The people listening to this are people interested in the Buffalo live music scene. So it's easier to target.
You're spending your advertising dollars.
You're spending
locally,
advertising dollars on people that are in the area that are interested in that, as opposed to like me, where it's like I talk about music from all over the place and random geeky things, which is really hard to narrow down as to like a particular advertising.
I have a friend who does a streaming internet radio station about local music, and we both got started around the same time, didn't know each other initially, and just ran into each other on the internet and found out we had this common interest. And his name's Scott Leffler, scottleffler.com, or allwesternnewyorkradio.com. I got to get the plugs in because he does play my podcast on his show once a week. I think it's like Sunday nights at 10. And he'll have to play a past episode this week because I'm up here.
Oh well, that's what the best.
That's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. That's why.
That's
why I have so many. And but anyway, he has done a lot of advertising on a local basis, and he's been, I think, pretty successful at it. I mean, he's at least covering costs, and his costs are substantially higher than mine because he's got to pay for a live 365.
I used to run a streaming server out of my home. Back before they had like places to just upload your music and stream it from work, and I was running a streaming server to from my home to work so I could listen to my music collection at work.
Actually,
I set up this system where people could like recommend songs to play next. So I had all my buddies at work who are they could see what was in my library.
I do the same thing.
And they could like say like, I'd like to hear this song, and 3 songs later the song they're looking for will come up, and it was like my own radio station. And I was looking into how much it would cost to just like have my own streaming thing. Because I was thinking of running like a streaming radio thing, and the cost of it was
horrendous,
it's like, what, for me just being able to listen to music at work, it's a little prohibitive.
Actually, I do the same thing. In fact, it's probably running now, but nobody ever listens to it except me, and then only if I'm out of town or something.
Actually, there's a service I use to stream music. It's called Pandora.com. Have you guys ever heard of it?
Oh yeah,
I've heard of it. I've never checked it out though.
It's very cool. It's this cool radio station. You put in a name of a song, or a name of a band, a song. Like I use CKY or Rising Against Billy Talent.
Ooh,
like that.
CKY is awesome.
I love CKY.
Their new CDs.
Oh yeah. So you enter this name. It'll give you recommendations. It'll play CKY. It'll play their album for you. Give you recommendations. And it's free streaming music.
Oh yeah. I play with it.
Yeah, it's very cool. I use it when I'm in the lab at school and I'm editing or something, just so I have something to listen to while I'm working, because I don't want to bring my iPod, because I protect that thing. I love my iPod. I just don't want nothing to happen to it. So,
well, there's a cool service I started using called I think the company's called MP3 Locker, and their website's mp3tunes.com.
Yeah.
Though mp3locker.com may also work. And it's a service where you can sync your music collection on multiple computers, and then you're able to stream or download that sort of online. Like you sort of sign in, and you can build your own playlists and hit play, and it'll like play it in this flash player thing.
That's very cool.
And like the free account that you can get has like a gig of storage. And
wow.
But
that's pretty good.
It's okay. And so once a week they sort of randomly select one of the free accounts and give them unlimited storage. So I signed up on a Thursday, and on the Friday night, I got an email saying I won the unlimited account for that week. So I've been uploading all the music from all my computers onto there. And like I have like 20 gigs of music now, and it's cool. Another cool feature.
Need some help? I got about 85,000 songs.
Sounds like a plan. It sounds like someone is going. It sounds like my computer is also in Buffalo, and I'm using the password. But they also have this cool feature called Sideload, which is now that I think about it, it's kind of like a good name for what it is they do. It's not uploading and it's not downloading. It's this plugin you can get for your web browser, where when there's an MP3 link, and they have their own like online store. They also have free music, and when you click the Sideload button, it takes that MP3 and just puts it into your online storage, so you don't have to bother putting it like onto your computer. You just click a button and it goes into your online storage.
Cool.
That's
and
cool.
you have this program you can download and sync, much like you do with sort of iTunes and your iPod, sync your music collection onto your iPod. You can sync your online collection with your your home collection. So you could sync sort of multiple computers with your MP3 collection, and you can sort of filter it down to exactly what it is you want to download and what it is you want to upload. Right now I'm only using it on a couple computers, so most of it's just in upload mode, but it'll be cool to share it with I have a computer that's kind of sitting collecting dust in my home with about 50 gigs of music on it, and I just want to bring it into work and plug it in for a week and just let it upload.
Run.
And you see, if it wasn't for podcasts, I would never know about this sort of stuff. Yeah. I mean, I found a lot of my stuff from the podcasts that were by G4 Tech TV. Just all their stuff. Like, hey, here's a cool link, check it out.
Yeah. I know I spend a lot of time, and one of the things that attracted me to podcasting initially was before I was retired, but while I was still working, I spent a lot of time at work. I was a maintenance electrician, and a lot of the time was sitting there waiting for something to break. So I had a lot of chair time, and I'd bring the laptop into work with me. Well, there's no internet access, but I could load it up, and I'd either load up the laptop or I'd load up my MP3 player with podcasts and sit there and listen to them at work. And you know, I had more time to listen to podcasts then than I do now.
Yeah, I have the same issue. I used to I live in downtown Toronto now. I used to live out in the suburbs, and I just load up the MP3 player and sit on the GO train, which is like the Toronto commuter train. And I'd sit there and catch up on podcasts because it took me like an hour and a half to get into work. Now it takes me a 20-minute walk, and I have tons of catching up to do.
But what Mike was saying was I'd sit there listening to him, and I worked midnight shift and everything. I might have been half asleep, but they'd talk about something every now and then and give a URL, and I'd say, hey, I got to check that out. Get the paper out and write it down. I'd take notes, and I'd go home and get on the internet and check those things out. Never would have done that if I hadn't listened to podcasts.
There was a guy today at Podcamp 2007 that we were at, and he said in the show notes you should always put your URLs. That's the currency of the internet.
I got a lot out of that. Your Google listings shoot way up with more links.
There's Chris Penn from the Financial Aid podcast did a really interesting. He did a couple interesting sessions on building traffic. One of the points that he made is that if someone links to your show, it's in your best interest to link back to them or to do what you can so that they do better. Because if their show does better and they've linked to you already, then by virtue of them doing better, you in relation to them also do better. Well, and I think that sort of comes out of that whole community thing that we're all helping each other. And we're all in it together, you know.
Yeah, and it sounds like increase your Google ranking and everything. It sounds kind of. It sounds kind of flaky, but it is important, and I was happy to find out that a lot of the things that I'd been doing all along is good. Putting links in your show notes to anything and everything you talk about.
Well, I pride myself in my show notes. My show notes are detailed to a ridiculous degree.
We basically just take all our show notes and we just take even stuff we don't even talk about. We take the entire file and just dump it on. Our XML feed's already freaking huge, and it's only 3 episodes in.
Well, I've been doing it as okay, you go and record a band. Well, help the band out. Put a link to their iTunes site, their MySpace site, their web page. their CD Baby page. You know,
I love CD Baby.
Isn't it?
Awesome. I go on.
CD Baby.
If you like indie music, it's like the best place to buy music online. They like sort stuff by mood and by genre and by like, this is good music for working out, or this is good music for X.
And a lot of artists that don't have a publishing deal with a major record label are on CD Baby as
because the way it works is like CD Baby they're not a label and they're not really even a distribution company. The artists send CD Baby their CDs and they provide like your e-commerce store and they'll send
they'll
out
do it
the
either
CD
way.
and stuff.
They'll do it either way.
For
really?
You can either send them a box of CDs and they'll sell them till they run out and then they'll tell you to send some more, or you can send them one and say, here, reproduce this for us. They'll do that.
Because I know they do digital distribution, but
it costs. But they'll do it for you.
There's another really good indie. While we're on it, indie music label. It's Magnatune.com, and they put out a lot of good music and all kinds of genres. And one of the cool things for them is when you buy the music on there, you can choose how much you want to pay for it. It's anywhere between $5 US and whatever it is you want to pay. And they split the revenue 50-50 with the artist.
Yeah. Another good source that I like to go to, I mean, even just great for podcasters, is PodSafe Music Network.
Yes,
definitely,
that's kind of the key. There's a lot of other great services out there, but for me, that's kind of the king, because for a fact that it's okay to use them in your podcast, and it's always. And the great thing about it is that when you sign up for the account and you basically add them to your playlist and you download it, you can let the artist know, hey, look, I used your song on my podcast on this particular episode. Come check it out, because it's basically letting them know that, hey, what they're doing is working, and what they're doing is getting out there. And that's the great thing about services like CD Baby and PodSafe Music Network, is the fact that they're getting themselves out there and they're getting that exposure. It's building a community. And that's exactly what podcasts are doing. Even putting links into show notes to stuff. It's basically everything is all connecting together, and that's what builds not only an audience for you, but I think of it honestly, the greatest. Whoever came up with the name podcast was a genius, because technically you have, like, every single show has its own little pod of just people that are connected, but they're all connected. Everything is all connected together. And
so we are pod people.
We are pod people.
Actually, it was funny. My best friend Ashley actually said, "Yeah, we're pod people," and I think she meant it as a verbal slip, but we kind of looked at it thinking, wow, we really are pod people.
Yeah. I like the PMN myself too. I started out when I originally wanted to do a podcast, and I still kind of didn't have an idea down pat for it yet. Searching through there, and at some point the idea came along that, okay, I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I don't want to play games with copyrighted music and break the law or anything like that. I want to use something that's okay to use on the internet in a podcast. And I didn't want to just be another podcast playing songs from the podcast network. It's not that that's not a good idea, but there are plenty of them out there doing it already.
Actually, there's a post on my blog. If you look up, search PodSafe Music, on the Classic Geek Show, I did a post. There was an interesting thing Lisa Barnes did again. She did, I think it was 30 days of podcasting, and it was like for a month, every day she put out a blog post with like sort of a tutorial on something for podcasting. And one day she sort of talked about places to go for PodSafe Music. She only really mentioned the PodSafe Music Network. And I gotta admit, as cool as it is, the PodSafe Music Network is the last place I go when I'm looking for music for my show. Because everyone on their podcast plays it, and I want to be able to find unique stuff. And the interface rather for finding music on the PodSafe Music Network is the most painful thing in the world. I would really like to be able to sort things by date. Search it under multiple terms and all kind. It's agonizing to use that.
Try and find it by city.
Oh yeah, like
You can't.
Like that. Like there's this information that they could just share with you, and I don't know. Like they spent all their time on letting people sell songs, and that's great. But I'd rather be able to find songs.
Yeah, personally, I think it's a great starting point for podcasters to really get into it.
The thing is, they haven't really done anything with it in a year in terms of like. The front facing stuff, the development kind of died on it, and I don't know what happened. There's some really great services.
They really focused on trying to be able to create like basic Pod Show Plus, and they've been really kind of focusing on that. And now I think I don't know if they've started kind of work on the PMN, but I do know that was what they were working on for like over a year.
Yeah. Well, there are good sites. There's GarageBand.com. There's one called, it seems to be Canadian-based for the most part, called Beatmaker, which is like beat, maka.com, and they have all kinds of stuff. And there's another good one called Stage.fm, and it's like another great spot for it. And it works a lot like the PMN, where like you can download and preview and talk to the bands and inform them easily.
It's another good one I'm trying to think of, and it's I'm drawing a blank, but they have... What's the one that does EPKs, electronic press kits?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
That's another good source.
Sonic Bids or something?
Yeah, Sonic Bids.
Okay, cool.
A lot of artists put their songs up on there, and usually if you approach them through that, they'll let you use them.
Yeah, and MySpace is always useful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it's as painful as using MySpace is.
It's a necessity.
They got the music thing. If Facebook had music, I would drop MySpace in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah. That's the only thing I find that keeps MySpace afloat. Is
I think MySpace is a necessary evil.
Well, MySpace has been a huge help for us.
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah,
no doubt.
We're not like we love the fact that it's a massive social networking tool. But it's just it's unfortunate that basically the interface is like working a GeoCities site.
No, MySpace is full of social networking tools. Boom, boom.
Yeah, ba-dum-bum.
We'll have to have that sound in. But the fact that we have people on our network, specifically, we have a listener named Kathy, who's like one of my very close friends. She'll re-pimp our stuff for us and tell her friends, and then our friend Leslie does it. And it just spreads. I mean, we got professional radio people listening to us.
Yeah.
Through there, like Kevin. And people
that guy.
Yeah, he works for 98.1 The Beach up in Port Elgin.
Yeah.
So we got, professional listenership through MySpace.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And I see that as one of our greatest tools. Mind you, just due to MySpace's interface, we have to redesign the site.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, but you know what, though? Through all the social networking tools we've used, we just got a Facebook, which I'm working on. So hopefully by the time this podcast gets up, we're live.
Wow. Okay. So we GarageBand was being a pain in the butt. So I'm sorry if this kind of cuts off at this particular point.
Yeah,
we're back.
Yeah, we are back.
There isn't really a logical closure point because we screwed up.
Yeah, but we had apparently I think it's
and it's 3 a.m. So
it's
it's 3:30 a.m.
Yeah,
and counting.
I have to be up in 5.5 hours.
So what we're gonna do? This is part 1 of our special download only episode. However, we will cut clips out of this for our regular show, which will be returning on March 7th, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, March 7th. So we're gonna cut clips out of this so you can hear this if you didn't hear it again. So anyway, we were joined in the round table by
Brent, the Closet Geek from the Closet Geek Show.
Yep, and Dale Gritzmacher from the Buffalo Live Music Podcast.
And we fully intend to be interacting with these guys throughout the summer, and hopefully for the rest of our broadcast careers, actually, because this was a really good roundtable, and I actually feel like I learned a lot here tonight.
Yeah. We should also mention that we did have earlier the
Uncle Seth. Which was Carrie.
Tara.
Sorry.
Yeah. She's going to kill you now.
That's the magic of editing.
Who says I'm editing this, man?
Shut up, dude. But yeah, so we want to thank our special guests tonight. Also, we want you guys to check out www.thisweekingeek.net. We want you to give us feedback because, we are going to do a regular podcast
when
we go off the air on CRNC 90.1 The New Heat FM.
Because it's reading week. Well, no, it's Reading Week this week. So, like we said in the last episode, we won't be able to get an live episode out, but we'll at least have something on the podcast for you guys regularly at the same time that we have been every week.
Now, we are going to try and see if we can get this episode up in time to be put on the radio so we can cut this thing together.
Hopefully.
So that is the plan. We're going to see. This is Reading Week. I'd like to sleep. As some of you may know me in my personal life, I don't sleep. In fact, some of you have called me a workaholic to the point where it's dangerous. So, yeah, sleeping? No. But anyway, I'm rambling on here. These guys want to get to bed. So, once again,
I love to sleep.
Sleep is good.
Hey, listen up, Cabot boy.
So, Snowball shall...
All right. Well, if you want to email us, comments, feedback, whatever, feedback at thisweekingeek.net. Go to our website, thisweekingeek.net, or add us to our MySpace at myspace.com/thisweekingeek. And if you want all show notes for our show, we have a delicious feed up. I know it's kind of brand new. We have a delicious feed. If you go to delicious/thisweekingeek, all one word for This Week in Geek, you can be able to get all the show notes, all the links we talked about on any previous show on there. So yeah, that's pretty much it for This Week in Geek. I'm Steve Snowball Sailor.
And I'm Mike, the Birdman Dodd. And remember, in space, no one can hear you scream. So, good night, everybody. We're coming back with part 2 tomorrow.
Woohoo!
All right, good night, guys. Thanks.
Good
night. Want to see me make bubbles with my spits? Sure do. In fact, that's the theme of our next show. So don't miss it.
Why is the program, freaking out? It's doing it again! This program... Communism! Freaking communism!
Can you count pi to 1,000 places? Wait, if you can, you're too much of a nerd.
They gave us a show and we still don't know what we're doing.
I don't know either.
You've been listening to This Week in Geek. Tune in next week where you'll hear Mike say,
I'm ad-libbing this as I go along. I'm just going to let it roll and I can edit out whatever I want, okay? Shit, I need to think.
So make sure to tune in next Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on 90.1 FM The New Heat. Also make sure to visit our website at thisweekingeek.net for show notes, news, and updates about the show. Also make sure to add yourself to our MySpace page at myspace.com/thisweekingeek. If you'd like to send comments or feedback about the show, email us at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. That's it for us. We'll see you next week on This Week in Geek.